Forbes lists her as the third top-grossing YouTube celebrity last year. Lilly Singh grew up in the Toronto suburb of Scarborough, now lives in L.A. And for someone who, as I said before we started this interview, I said that I really feel like decades from now, we'll be looking back at Lilly Singh in many ways a pioneer of a brand new form of kind of media and communication. She has gone old school and written a book. It's called How to Be a Bawse, A Guide to Conquering Life. Check this out, Lilly. It says, rhymes with mouse. Isn't that great? In it, she reflects on her personal journey to superstardom and shares lessons she learned on the way. We're lucky to have caught Lilly Singh in a while. She's on an international tour that will hit 12 countries. Hi.
Hi.
Rhymes-
What an elaborate intro.
Well, you know,
I love that.
our producer, Gene, worked hard on this, but I love rhymes with mouse.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
It's funny because it's kind of not true.
Welcome back to Toronto.
Thank you.
How does it, what?
Bawse.
Bawse.
There it is.
I feel like I'm saying it right.
You kind of nailed it.
It's not, I would say Bow 5.
Yeah. Whatever.
How's it being back in Toronto?
It is amazing. I love being back in Toronto. I mean, of course, I moved to LA, but home is still Toronto, still my favorite place, still where my family and home is.
What's the one thing you do when you come back to Toronto?
Eat all of my mom's food.
Yeah.
Because in LA, there's just so many apps that deliver food to your house.
Right.
And I'm always ordering food, so I just eat my mom's food. Fresh, home-cooked food.
I know what you mean. There's nothing people often ask. I'm from Newfoundland. People will ask me, "Oh yeah, what do you do when you go home?" And I go, "I don't want to eat anywhere, but except for with
Exactly. I want to eat.
I want my mom's fish cakes."
That's where I go anywhere.
You had
That's why.
you had an event last night in Toronto for your book. You get up on stage, you talk to the audience, you do a Q&A. I know you do a lot of these, but I'm really curious as someone whose work is for many, many years done solo, like done on your own, and millions of people get to watch later. It's kind of like doing a radio show because you don't really see the impact of your work.
Right.
What's it like standing up in front of a live audience?
I personally love it. I mean, I know a lot of creators they say like, I feel more comfortable behind a screen, and I'm comfortable with that. I love being on a stage because exactly what you said. When I'm doing my YouTube videos, I don't get to see that reaction in real time. I have to wait and read a sea of comments that are promoting people's channels and tearing me down or saying nice things. But when I'm on stage, I can see people reacting in real time, smiling to what I'm actually saying, and sometimes crying at what I'm saying. And that's really exciting. I like evoking emotion.
So I think the real question I have here today is why a book at all? I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the book, but I was kind of surprised when someone who makes all these incredible YouTube videos and is very much has 2 feet firmly planted in what we call new media. This whole interview is making me feel like I'm 88 years old. By the way, I think we're like the same age, but I feel like I'm 104. Why a book?
That's a really good question. I love YouTube. I love the digital space, but I'm always looking for challenges. I want to step outside my comfort zone, and the book has allowed me to write in a way I've never written before. So when I write my YouTube videos, I'm thinking about attention span. I'm thinking about when a punchline has to go somewhere and what an audience is going to like in 4 minutes. The book was my opportunity to be really vulnerable in ways I haven't been before and talk about stories way more thoroughly and extract lessons from my life I have never been able to communicate as effectively in a video.
That's so interesting. Storytelling for YouTube is a very, very different medium,
Yes,
hey?
100%. Because you got to grasp people's attention, and they won't have as much attention as they would while holding a book when they're watching YouTube.
You know, you dedicate this book to a person you were 6 years ago. You wrote, "I told you to keep going. Thanks for listening." Tell me about that person you were 6 years ago.
Yes, that person I was 6 years ago was not a boss. She was sad. It's actually why I started making YouTube videos. I was sad, and I was trying to be happy. And so I remember being in such a low point in my life and not having any ambitions and not wanting to do anything, literally the exact opposite of everything I describe in this book. And somehow, some way, I dug deep and held on and decided to do something with it. And I created this book many years later. And so it is dedicated to me because I am my own best friend and I do love myself, every facet of it.
But in speaking to yourself, you're also speaking to those who may feel that way.
100%. Everyone who has been, and I feel like that's almost every human, has been in that period of life where they just feel like giving up and they don't feel like they have that strength inside them to keep going. It is dedicated to that stage of your life.
It's some really powerful moments in the book I notice where you actually compare and contrast. So if you're listening to this, I'm speaking with Lilly Singh, and in her book, How to Be a Bawse, there's literally 2 diary entries, which, I should let you say it, they're 2 diary entries which contrast one another. Tell me more about that.
Yes, they're called Out of the Blue sections, and I wanted to include those sections because I'm going to be real. I wrote an advice book, but I don't think people should take advice from me because I have 11 million subscribers. Like, that's cool, but that's not why you should take advice from me. I included the out of the blue sections because it's 2 pages. On the left is a blue page, and it recalls a day from my life that was very depressing and dark. And then contrasting is a yellow page right next to it, which takes a chapter out of my life as Superwoman, as a success, as a career that I love. And you kind of, as a reader, go from left to right and think, wow, how did she get from this place to this place? And that's what the rest of the book is. It is me using every guide I'm teaching you about in the book to get from the left page to the right page.
What's it like going back and reading those old entries, those old journals, those old things that I mean, obviously, you feel very good because you managed to overcome a lot of the problems that you expressed, but it can't be easy to read them.
No, it's horrendous, actually, absolutely horrendous. It was also very difficult to record the audiobook because
What do you mean?
The audiobook in itself was just not fun.
Yeah, a lot
It
of
was in
talking.
a studio for 2 hours by myself, very taxing on my voice and my body, and also learned, I actually can't speak English well at all. And as a Canadian,
I feel that way every day, by the way.
and as a Canadian, I also pronounce words way differently than my U.S. Producer that was in the room correcting me on everything I'm saying. And I was like, oh my goodness. But reading out loud those excerpts of times when I was such a sad person was so strange because I felt like I almost could not even recognize that person anymore. By the way, recognize is one of the words I couldn't say in the audiobook.
What do you
You
mean?
actually have to say recognize.
Recognize?
Yes, that's
Like,
how you actually say the word. It's
not
weird.
recognize?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Who
like
says that, right?
No, I don't like that.
Come on,
You know
whatever.
what? This is the CBC. We're going to set it out right now. It's recognize.
Recognize. Boom.
Done. At one point in your book, you write, when people ask me what I'm most grateful for, they get confused when I reply depression. And later you say, everything I have today, every video, success, and opportunity is the direct result of taking that pain and turning it into something positive. And that's comedy. And we talk about reading those books about when you were very sad. I know you have a psychology degree, and I know I've read interviews with you. I read one even last night where you said that it's quite inspiring to you when people come up to you and say they were encouraged to get help because of something you said to them. Though, are you ever concerned that some of the message in the book might be, depression can be fought through sheer will, especially when you have a very large and often young following that looks up to you?
Of course, of course. I mean, I have disclaimers in the beginning of the book for a reason, and the disclaimers say, take what you will from this book, but this is not the end-all, be-all of answers. I want you to extract every positive thing you can. And I always preach in my videos that, hey, this worked for me, but this is not a universal law that's going to work for everyone. I'm really trying to preach self-love and self-esteem, but if you need to get help, there is absolutely no shame in doing so. And I think even discussing depression, especially growing up in a South Asian community, is just so important because I can hope at least that my work takes away some of the taboo associated with that.
I had a friend of mine the other day tell her family that she was experiencing depression, and she could tell that the older generations of the family, and we're from a pretty rural place out in Newfoundland, they had a hard time even understanding what it was. I can only imagine there was a certain vulnerability in expressing that at all in front of your family, much less 11 million people. But sometimes the family's the hardest part.
100%. It definitely was the hardest part, and it's all makes it worth it because at a lot of my meet and greets, I do have fans coming up to me saying, because of you, I actually embraced this and I talked about it and I told someone, and that for me is a huge win.
Yeah, because there's evidence based, there's medication in some cases, there's talk therapy, there's cognitive behavioral therapy. These things can all help. You're not concerned that you're giving people, if people can't get through it through sheer will, if they're somehow not up to it.
Yeah, then they should definitely get help. I think I'm talking about my story and what works for me here, but by no means is that a universal fix for everyone.
You're this huge internet brand. You still put out videos on your YouTube channel every
Yes.
Monday and Thursday. When you started out, you were making these videos by yourself. And I got to go to some of the early videos last night and have a look at them.
Oh, no.
But that's interesting. You say, oh, no, because now they're obviously a lot more polished. They're a lot more elaborate. And I'll say the stakes are higher when you have 11 million people watching you. How has that changed?
Well, the production level of my videos has changed simply because I have finally come to terms with I don't know how to use a camera.
Right.
And there's someone out there that can use a camera better than me.
Yeah.
But it's also, I'm getting a lot more busy. Nowadays, YouTube is very much so a business. It wasn't that way when I started.
Does that take something away from it?
I think, it takes something away, but it also adds something.
What do you mean?
I started making YouTube videos because I was sad. And almost every one of my peers that started making YouTube videos at that same time was because they were messed up in some way.
Yeah, yeah.
They had anxiety. They didn't know how to talk to people. They made YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people will come up to me and say they want to make YouTube videos as a career. They want to make money off YouTube. When they grow up, they want to be a YouTuber. Like, that never existed when I was younger. And so it's definitely become more of a business, which is exciting because it's so new and it's a path we can create and it's so entrepreneurial and it's great in that sense. But yeah, it does also add a lot of pressure to what you do because now it's an income and now it's a brand and now it's things you have to consider about what you say and what you do and how you carry yourself.
Well, but I have to imagine it's a lot easier to take risks when you have 150 followers, much less when you are on the side of a bus and you are in many ways seen, Lilly, as the poster child for YouTube in some ways. You're used in a lot of their advertisements. Is it harder to take risks when you have this brand surrounding you?
Honestly, not really, because my content is pretty family friendly to begin with. I'm a pretty family friendly person by nature, and so the risks I take will usually be with just creative ideas that are never really offensive in any way. And so there's a lot of times where I've released videos and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try something new. Oh, okay, it sucked. That didn't work. Let me try something else. So I feel like I'm still very able to take risks, not with videos and with things like writing a book.
The part of the book, before we turn the microphones on, we talked a little bit about, I really enjoyed the part about negative comments on the internet. And I think that's something that I really struggle with because I don't think it's entirely natural to open up your phone and read not so nice things about yourself, so it gives you a lot of anxiety. I think anyone who's read the comments, especially on YouTube, know it can get really, really nasty. And you say in the book that you also used to read every comment. So how do you handle negative comments now?
Well, I still read almost every comment, even till this day. I have first of all, let me preface this by saying that anyone who says they are never affected by a hate comment is lying. Everyone's got to be affected. There's always one comment that really stings you. I just have very much so taught myself to focus on what deserves my attention. I understand I have X amount of energy a day and I want to put it towards positivity. So before I ever respond to a negative comment, if I am tempted to, I will respond to 10 positive ones. Right. And then usually I don't want to respond to the negative comment because I have really taught myself that someone who leaves a negative comment, they're not telling my story, they're telling theirs. And I understand that from a psychological point of view. Because just as you said, it's not natural to wake up and see comments on your phone. It's also not natural to wake up and want to write hate comments on someone's YouTube videos, unless you're an unhappy person.
Do you ever wonder whether it's natural to open up your phone? I wonder about this sometimes. Do you ever wonder whether it's natural to open up your phone and look for likes too, to look for validation, or whether validation needs to come from within?
There's also a chapter in my book called "You're Not a Parking Ticket, Thus You Shouldn't Be Easily Validated," and it's exactly about that. About if you're going to say, I'm not going to read any negative comments, then the super, super positive validating comments also should not impact you. There's danger to both of those. And I think social media is great and retweets are great and double taps are great, but that is not how we should measure our value by any means.
If you're just tuning in, by the way, I'm speaking with YouTube sensation and now author Lilly Singh about her new book, How to Be a Bawse.
Bawse.
Any good?
You're so good at it.
Thank you.
Amazing.
What you do is really, I think, what I find really interesting about what you do is that it's at the end of the day, even though there's this huge machine behind it, it's ultimately very grassroots. You speak directly to an audience without a middleman. And in many of your videos, you share experiences that anyone can relate to. 6 stages of having a crush, how to make a sandwich. But I have to ask, now that you're living in LA and I see you hanging out with Drake and MIA and Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, do you ever worry about losing the relatability to the audience that you're speaking with?
This is so funny you asked this because I'll tell you a story right now. One of my team members gets so annoyed at me that I go grocery shopping. He's sitting right over there. He gets so annoyed at me when I go grocery shopping because he's like, there's an app for that. You can just order it. And I'm like, I need to do these things because that's where I get my content from. So I know I do The Tonight Show and I know I get to hang with all these people that maybe my audience can't relate to, but I'm still talking about relationships and parents and shopping and dressing rooms and all those things. And so I try to experience as much as that as I can.
Why is it important you still talk about those things? Why is it important you stay relatable?
Because I think that's what makes comedy great. I think comedy is at its peak when someone can watch something and think, oh, I thought I was the only one. And I had no idea other people were weird, just like how I'm weird. I think everyone recognizing we're all weird is great. And I think that's what brings people together.
It's interesting, I think in the early days of YouTube, we were talking about this yesterday, and I don't know if you're old enough listening to this to remember like those first days of YouTube, and you just kind of open it up and it'd just be a bunch of videos of just either folks falling off skateboards or
Cat videos.
Cat videos and people just talking in front of their and as you mentioned, they were just a bunch of weirdos just trying to get something out there.
Yeah.
Now it's where people go, as you mentioned, to try and make something of themselves. And it's also a place that's been taken over by, in many ways, corporations. You'll see major networks, major advertisers have videos and have sponsored videos up there. It's not exactly the grassroots platform that it used to be. So I guess as a YouTuber, and arguably the most famous one, is YouTube still the place for someone just in their house trying to make a video in the bedroom and make something cool?
Absolutely. I think YouTube is a place for all of the above. If you want to talk directly to your camera and just let your feelings out, you can do it. If you want to make more produced content, you can do it. Even to go back to your point of, the corporations that have branded videos, the great thing about YouTube is that the creator is in control. Although, they're, following talking points and getting paid to do something. I've done many brand deals, and there is no person blocking me from my audience, and therefore I will be very selective with who I work with and what I say. And so it's great in that sense when no one is blocking the upload button, and I think it's a place for everyone.
Is that the reason that even though you're writing books and you're going on TV and you're getting offered parts of movies, you're going to still do YouTube videos?
Well, I'm still going to do YouTube videos because I believe in the digital space so much. I started in 2010, and I had to work it the whole way of convincing people that YouTube is a thing and should be taken seriously. Now, we're in a great place where people see the value of the digital community, but it wasn't always like that. And I am loyal to it. I believe in it. I think it's a testament to the fact that people like The Rock have a YouTube channel now. Shay Mitchell has a YouTube channel. A lot of traditional celebrities are jumping on the bandwagon of having a digital presence, and that makes me very, very happy. And I believe in it, so I don't want to abandon it.
Lilly Singh, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
I hope you enjoy it.
I really did.
Amazing.
I already enjoyed it.
And the pages are so soft.
Incredibly soft.
Exactly. If not anything else I said, the pages are soft.
Yeah, I think you can improve your skin.
I agree. Exfoliate your skin.
You can exfoliate just by turning the pages.
100%.
Lilly Singh's new book is called How to Be a Bawse.
You're nailing it every time.
How about we do this? How about I say how to be a?
Got it.
Lilly Singh's new book is called How to Be a
Bawse.
A Guide to Conquering Life. The YouTube superstar is currently on a global tour, including dates in Canada and the U.S. We'll post a link to her tour dates on our website, cbc.ca/q.